Hello, welcome to book 3. I'm showing the pink ceiling while I catch my breath. And I'm going to just send a little bit of Reiki to the phone. It's charging. I'm hoping that it will last this whole live because it's a big story to tell. Welcome if you're joining. Let me know who's here. Okay. Time to show my face. Alright. Nope, not yet. Okay. Today is the final chapter. The chapter that takes us to present day, my current healing journey, and tells the journey of my healing, of how my business healed me, how me becoming a healer meant me becoming a healer of me. So, hi Chantal, I'm so happy to be witnessed by you. So before I start, I'm just going to place my few little talismans today. I've got my moonstone mala on, some rose quartz today. Hi Amaya, it's good to see your name pop up. And I'm just going to place these on either side. I'm going to get just a little drop of classic lavender today. And honor myself. Honor that. Retelling this story, claiming it in front of you today is it's truly a sacred act of breaking my allegiance to hiding, breaking my allegiance to doing healing the old way, which is taking on other people's things, pretending the veneer of perfectness. And I need to honor how activating that is. There's a little bit of nausea, and also excitement and freedom. Also going to take a little drop of clary sage, it feels like, as I retell this. And I claim the gifts that are in it. I also connect to all my feminine ancestors. I'm going to just anoint myself on my sacral chakra here, and I want to speak that into this space. I honor the ancestors, and I honor all the healers that have gone before me. I honor that healing as we went through time, went through different archetypes, through different roles. I honor that maybe for a long time there was people on this planet who were meant to absorb and sponge and take it on for others, just to remove the simmering intensity of humanity. And I honor that at this time in history, that may no longer be the way. Because people are strong enough to do their own healing. We are all called to wake up. So there's no more doing it for others. And of course, I speak about this in my courses all the time. This is absolutely known, and I'm going to tell you the story of how I became to know this and how I continue to know this. Before we do, I want to take some cards from the Divine Feminine Oracle deck by Megan Watterson, whose book about Mary Magdalene I recently devoured. Apparently Mary Magdalene wants to do some work through me based on an Akashic Records reading. I would be part of her soul group. So I honor her. Ooh, that feels activating. I honor that healing healers may also be the work of healing the feminine in both women and men. So I'm going to be taking just one card for what healers in this day and age, what we need to know and who is aiding us. So here we go. I'm just going to take one card today. Isis, the goddess of magic. Sexual energy is sacred. My pleasure is a prayer that brings me back to life. I do not know much about Isis, but I know a little bit about magic. So let's begin. I'm going to just have her sit with us here. So where I left the tale last night, I actually don't remember. But let me return to the NHC Institute, where it was my 2 years of formation, where I was in this beautiful container of an energy healing program. And the fact that I knew I was going to do it from start to finish after I was a couple of courses in created a certain magic. It activated in me the healer archetype in me that had been there all along, or I wouldn't have come into a program like that. And it was a wild, wild ride. And I told you yesterday that there was a special magical week, like a portal I moved through. It'd be interesting to look at the astrology, where I started Chakra Journey 1, Healing Journey, and Date with Sean, my husband. And so I told you how codependency was a total pattern in my relationships. I had had a little bit of time to be single. And in that time, I really, really learned to be alone and not to settle for just anybody. I had had just a crush on somebody, and then I decided, well, that's not going anywhere. So I accepted one last internet date, because I was obsessed with internet dating. I got the attention I've craved. I felt attractive, and there was seemingly an endless supply of guys I could date, and I could kind of choose my pickiness. There were so many that just didn't meet my standards, and I judged myself for being picky. And also I knew deep inside, like that deeper wisdom of me was like, no, there's something there that you need. And this is how my intuition works, okay? I was kind of getting frustrated with the online dating thing. I was looking for my man. I was looking for the guy that would match me. and that would be strong enough, boundaried enough, not to be overwhelmed by me when I went into crazy mode, where all the emotions went raw and loose and crazy. Unconsciously, I was looking for that. So one night, I changed the online dating profile. And I remember this so distinctly and so clearly because it was maybe one of the first times I really channeled something. I don't remember the precise words that I wrote, but I got into this serious summoning mode. And what I wrote was cryptic and mysterious and strange, and my mind could not make heads or tails of it. And the genius of me at that day, that I thank almost every day for attracting the guy I live with, the guy I share my life with, was something to the tune of, I'm looking for someone strong yet soft, funny but can have serious conversations. There's a whole bunch of different contradictions. And I didn't know what the hell that meant at that time, but what I knew is that's what I wanted. That's who I wanted to call in. And I did. And later, my love affair with contradictions got so much clearer. So much clearer. Because it's when we heal that we're able to live both the full range of our humanity. So we're not trapped in the shadowy aspect of just one side. So Sean, far from being a perfect man, was also a restless human being, a young man of 26 who had never been in a relationship before. Whoops! That lasted more than 3 months. And I was on this intense spiritual journey. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. But it worked. And what happened is that I kept setting my boundaries in different ways. I'm going to have to fix this. Sorry about that. I'm getting a bit of a neck pain looking down. It's unpleasant. And me taking the time to fix this is actually an indicator that there is a lot of healing that has happened, because I'm unwilling to suffer neck pain for the sole sake of this life. There we go. That's so much better. Okay. Whoop. I'm going to have to plug this back in very soon, but not just yet. Okay. So, I remember on chakra 3, so we were like, 6 weeks into our relationship? Sean had done this miraculously sweet thing, which was he'd asked my roommate to let him into the apartment, and he cooked a beautiful, beautiful meal for me. And that is such a romantic, beautiful thing to do. And solar plexus chakra is all about boundaries. And I figured I needed my own space. And I was learning at that moment. So if you remember, I wasn't good at differentiating me versus other. And so at that time, I was like, yeah, I need my own space. I need to be able to speak up for my own space. This is important. So I was learning to do boundaries, but I wasn't doing boundaries in a skillful way at all. I wasn't doing them in a way that was graceful or very aware. So I remember freezing up when he came in. When I came in, and instead of reacting well to this extremely romantic thing my new boyfriend did for me, I said, "You're in my space. You're in my space. I don't like this. You're in my space." So that's an example of early early learning. And think what I want to claim here, that early learning is awkward. And Sean reacted terribly to it, and I was like, what the fuck? I just did something like the most romantic I've ever done in my life, and you're not reacting well to it at all. And that was a weird wake-up call for me, where I was like really thinking I had it figured out, like from my mind, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And it didn't really turn out great. So I didn't really love boundaries from there on. I'd kind of like shy away from their learning of them. So anyway, I keep doing this intense work on myself, and I'm starting to open up my intuition. I'm starting to learn to see and to feel energy. And I've got this really strong, magnificent man by my side who does not believe in energy or Reiki to this day. To this day. And I'm asked very often if that's a problem for me. And actually, it's worked out amazingly because it gives me a natural boundary. His world is his world. My world is my world. And in my world, energy is real. Energy can be worked with. And I got to claim that for my own. And so it worked out really beautifully. And I know for a lot of people, they ask me, like, my partner doesn't believe in these things. What it forced me to learn is like a boundary where I get to have my own world and I get to know what's real for me. And when he's ready to come into this world, I'll be all the happier for it. But it's really not required because this is my own. And if he were to come into this world, it's still my own. And I get to share it with him. So that's just to set a little bit the stage. So I want to tell you now, I never remember where I was last night. And I'm just going to reground because I'm feeling there's something really shadowy in me, something really anxious. Some truth I probably don't want to tell, and I want to tell it. Okay. What I'm not telling you is that part of the pattern that happened with the first boyfriend happened again. I was crying a lot. I was really crying a lot during these NHC days. And Sean still has a bit of trauma every time I call him because he's afraid I'm going to be crying on the other side. This internal work was grueling. It's not grueling for everybody, not at all. But I just went so deep, so fast, so seriously. And I process energy with tears. That's just the way it is. And so I would call him, bawling my eyes out, because I would accept him to save me from my emotions. This was not conscious, but this was what was happening. I would expect to be saved from my own process that I started, that I initiated, that I dug into. And I kept putting it on him. He didn't choose it. He was like, okay, cool, you're doing. So, of course, he had kind of like a natural aversion to me digging even deeper, going even deeper. Because somewhere, subconsciously, I would like cling on him and on his strength, which is phenomenal. And it wouldn't work. He never saved me. He never saved me. And this is literally the saving grace of our relationship. This is the opposite rules. This is the opposite of what our total society is based on. Be with somebody who is really good at consoling you when you're sad. Be somebody you can share your sorrows with. Be with somebody who can shoulder the difficulties of life. And yes, 100%. 100,000%. I don't disagree with that as such. But where I misunderstood that paradigm is I didn't really do my own work. Not really. And he saw that. And he told me the fierce, unapologetic, difficult truth the whole time. And it is because of this man that my healing has propelled as much. It was the only kind of energy that I could have been with and done the work that I did. Because as soon as I would hang, it's too hard, it's too much on somebody else's shoulders, I would completely detract, completely slow down my own progress. So he held a fierce boundary, and we almost didn't make it. This man I share my life with, and I love this fierce truth. He drives me nuts sometimes. He's difficult. We almost didn't make it because I kept doing that. I kept giving my power to him, giving my power to him, giving my power to him, and he would have none of it. So he broke up with me. And this was in that period where I was starting my master's, and I was like, okay, this was January 2012, and it was another slap in the face, another breaking point. So what I take ownership here in this retelling is that for me, the rock bottoms have been relationship wise. And so I am also a damn good relationship healer. If this is something that you know you want to heal, I got you. I know this from myself. So he broke up with me, and it was it was a slap in the face, honestly. I felt alone. I felt pissed. I felt like my life was clearly in my own hands, and I couldn't hand it to anybody else. It was simple. And I didn't want to do it. I cried, and I worked out, and I met the one and only friend I was going to make during my master's. And I plugged on through. And the truth is we didn't break up, we went on a break, but the break just felt like it was lasting infinity. And my old roommate, this equally phenomenal woman, she came over one night because she had called me and I was crying. That's what I did. I just come back from the gym and I was so pissed, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So she came over, she brought me chicken and fries. One of the sweetest things anybody's ever done for me. She's such a good friend. And she talked some sense in me. She's like, you're worth a hell of a lot more than this. This can't last forever. You should call him to bring his stuff back or send them or whatever. So she helped me formulate a boundary to stand up for my own worth, for my own truth, for what I could and could not live with. I could not live with a extended break like that. It had to just be a breakup. That night I chatted with Sean's best friend at the time, and I told him I'm not doing great. I'm gonna break up with them. And he called Sean and he told him, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So he got a fierce talking to. also. And then I talked to Sean. I told him I'll bring you your stuff. And he said, no, let's go on a date. So I said, okay. And things just picked up from there. The lesson is I needed to take responsibility for my shit. I needed to be clear on what I was willing and what I was not willing to live. The relationship picked up from there, and it wasn't easy. There was a lot for me to learn, but that moment was like, okay, like wake up, the big wake up call. I was midway through NHC. I was midway through the healing, 2 years. And at that time, Sean became a really big supporter of mine. And he and I, so he, for those of you who know, he has a business called Karaoke Montreal. He had gone to Mexico for 2 months and he just got this idea. He set it up. He got a million calls. He was like, yeah, this is a thing. So he had started that and he'd figured out how to do the SEO, the search engine optimization. And it had really worked, and it had worked quick. And of course, this is like 8 years ago. So things work differently right now. But 8 years ago, that was really quick and easy to do. So I was graduating and I was debating, do I do this professionally or not? And if you get a bit of a sense of who I was at that time, I could have these like flashes of fierce determination, but they would like pan out really quickly. I was learning boundaries, but I wasn't really good at them yet. So had I been alone at that time and decided, yeah, I'm going to do this, it would have just been sort of a dream and I wouldn't have really made it into the reality. I needed a warrior energy around me, like Sean, to activate the warrior in me. Activate, trigger, activate. And so I was dreaming and I was like, I had like a business class as part of that. And I was like, I want to call it Inner Space. I liked it because it sounded a bit like my name. And that was always like what I'd called it, my inner space, like that inner cultivation. That was the true name of my first business. That was the name that I energetically felt super aligned with. Okay? And this is important because I could feel the truth with a capital T, inner space. And I had learned many, many techniques, and Reiki wasn't really my favorite one. My favorite one was called focusing. It's still called focusing. And that's what my mentor did with me a lot. And that's a variation of that. My version of that is what I really, really, really do. And what focusing is really this wonderful practice of mindfulness and then finding the precise words that resonate with the energy in the body. So there's this precision in words. This is part of my clues. Like, remember how before 12, 13 years old, I just couldn't express myself in none of the 3 languages I spoke. I couldn't map the languaging to the inner space. So that's what I really wanted to do. But did I trust myself? No. Did I believe that I would be able to get clients? No. Did I feel solid enough in me at that time that I would put a name so aligned like that? No. And there's no real way of knowing what would have happened if I had run with that name and really spoken that truth that early on, because I was a real baby healer and baby human. I was 24 at this time, turning 25. And Karaoke Montreal, hey, let's see how many people search for Reiki Montreal. 300 a month at that time. And I made this quick calculation. I was like, well, if I just get 3 of those in the month, well, that's already something. That's already really good. So I swallowed that like artistic sense in me and I went with the practical. I called the business Reiki Montreal. And I'm going to plug this in. And that was a smart decision. It was. Because my website within 2 months, this is really like kind of unheard of, shot to the first page of Google. And cool. So now I had a piece of the puzzle to start really owning up to my decision to being a healer. In parallel, the story I wanted to tell yesterday. Excuse me, I'm struggling with this thing. I'm gonna have to pinch it out once more. Okay. The story there is I was debating and I was just holding the question. And there's this magic that happens when we hold a question. It's kind of like, I don't know, I've experienced it a quadrillion times and it's really hard to describe. It's really hard to find that precise language, but I'm going to try. Like you create a container of a question and you make the question like so magnetic and poignant, and the answer almost has no choice but to land. And the answer can come from the outside, but very often it comes from the inside. If you're asking the right question, the answer is very, very close by, I've found. So the question that I was holding was just sort of sitting in front of my computer. I was living on Queen Mary Street, Queen Mary Road, and I had my parents' old iMac big computer, and I was just sitting there holding this question. Do I do this? Do I do this? I don't feel especially called. I don't feel especially confident. I don't know for sure that this is what I want to do with my life. There's a lot I like about it, but I'm still having a lot of doubts about my own abilities, about the energy in actuality. And then the universe gave me this incredible sign. I was sitting in front of my computer and Facebook open, and then boop, a little red dot shows up on Facebook notifications. That hasn't changed in 8 years. And there was somebody looking for someone to share a healing space on Saint Joseph. Now, since then, I know there's a lot of healing spaces on Saint Joseph, and this can't be that rare of an occurrence, but this was weird because I didn't know many healers. I didn't know any, really. I just knew a lot of student healers, and I knew the teachers at the school, but that was it. So I click on it, and I remember that when I was 17, 18, I'd been on Saint Joseph Street a couple of times, and I had this sort of idea. I was like, when I'm 40 and well established and I'm a psychologist, I'm going to have an office on this grand boulevard Saint Joseph. I thought it had such grandeur to it. And it does. It's a beautiful boulevard. And I was like, okay, I don't have to wait till I'm 40. I can do it when I'm 25. Cool. So I got in touch with the woman. It was a match. I rented the space from her. It was $200 a month. I had 3 time slots in the week. And $200, that meant 3 sessions of $70. I figured that was a risk I was able to take. So I did. And I did not make that payment. And that was the beginning. It was full of nervousness. It was full of anxiety, full of a little bit of magic. And it really just takes a little drop of magic to blow up your whole world. You can be 98% full of doubt and craziness and confusion and 2% of magic, and that magic changes your life forever. So I started. I started, and thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like my life is full of those little moments of like, thank God I did. And they're all moments where my intuition was like, go do this. It makes no fucking sense, but go do it. And I'm like, yeah, sure, intuition. So, so I started, and it was awkward, and like really kind people like were sending me clients, but I wasn't really I had practice. Like I wasn't from nowhere. Like I'd done lots of case studies. I'd done 525 hours of energy school. Reiki as a 1, 2, 3 is 33 hours. So I really wasn't starting from nowhere. But I knew that, and I could feel it. I had done a lot of work on myself, but I was awkward. I didn't really know my way just yet. And I had 2 offers. My 1-hour session was going to be straight up Reiki, and my 1.5 hour was going to be Reiki plus focusing, or whatever it's transformed into now, which is my main thing. And talking about it, making the website was hard. Finding the language for these things was difficult. It was tedious, but exhilarating at the same time. And that, I think, is a clue. It's a clue when the tedium and the Elizabeth Gilbert calls these, everything is a shit sandwich, really. But which shit sandwich do you not mind eating? And I didn't mind plugging at it and working at it and finding the words to get the right people in to work with me. And I didn't mind really being awkward in my healing sessions. And I didn't mind not knowing how to trust my intuition or not knowing how to voice it just yet. For me, it's always been voicing. And I think a superpower that is developing is finding the precise languaging for energy, for the invisible, for the world that is intangible, but here. And I can feel my throat hurting a little bit as I say that. Like I said, this is active still. This is closer to right now. So I found my notes recently of like some of my first case studies, and it'd be things like, I felt something in his sacral chakra, and I had this intuition that he'd been cheated on. And then I verified, and he'd been cheated on. My intuition was really, really honing in, and I was really starting to be able to read bodies and tones and all of this unsaid world. And it was quite magical. It was really, really cool. But the awkwardness of it was strong because I felt like I wasn't doing it my way. I didn't know what my way was just yet. So I felt like I was playing a role, which, as you know from my story, I'm comfortable with. But at this point, it was starting to crumble, and I got really good at playing the role of that therapist, whatever I thought that was supposed to be. I've been very well trained, mind you. But there was something that wasn't clicking, something that was unsatisfying. And so I kind of thought it was the techniques for a while. So I learned a lot from doing Reiki. I learned so much, but it's never been my most natural favorite modality to practice. It's a world opener for me. It's been a huge world opener. And that's how I teach it. That's how I approach it. That's how I bring my clients in with Reiki in that way now. But at that time, I had like this idea of how I was supposed to be. So it was awkward. It's really the right word because it wasn't really me. And I thought it was Reiki to blame. And I kind of blamed Sean for a while for making me not create inner space, but create Reiki Montreal. Except it was a brilliant decision because it set me on this learning from practice journey. Because I did get the clients and I learned from every single one. I really did. And I had my other session, the focusing session. Chantal, if you're still around, you're a really important part of one of the turning points actually in this story. That's when I started feeling like getting into my own groove. But let me not get ahead of myself. So I kept learning more techniques and I kept trying to do the different techniques like separately. So I would do like clairvoyant readings and I'd be like, I don't like that one. And then Reiki, and I was like, yeah, okay, well, I've named my business, so I kind of like have to go with this one. And then the focusing, but nobody understood what the hell focusing was. And it was kind of like not exactly communicable enough to make it enticing enough for someone to come just for that session. So I kept kind of like doing this dance. Yay, Shanta, I'm so happy. I kept trying to figure out the modality that was really me. But what the hell, man? You can't be a modality. I mean, yes, you can align really strongly with a modality, and a modality can come through you really naturally and beautifully and powerfully. But you can't be a modality. And if you're kind of created like I am, where there's this need for self-expression and doing things in an exact, precise way that is you, hunting for different modalities, it's a losing battle. You actually have to get differentiated and get clear and get on who is you. So the first year or two I would really describe as finding my groove. And I want to name somebody else who popped in earlier, Amaya. You were so important too, because you were one of the first clients where it was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, this is what I'm made to do. And that was a while ago. But that was a clicking for me of like, I can guide in this way. And I let go of all the rules of each modality, and I started really trusting my own sensitivities, my own instincts, my own flow. It was magic. It felt so good, but it took so long for me to give myself full permission. I mean, am I there yet? This is a good question. These lives are definitely a reclaiming of what feels like that magical flow for me. We mix modalities, baby. And every moment calls up a new modality. And at some point I got confident enough to be like, what I do is I follow the present moment and I call in the right modality to come in at the right time. And that felt good. So there was a lot of trial and error and trying to find my way with it. And when it felt good, ooh, did it feel good? So that might describe the first 2 years, where I really gave myself the time to just meet that rent every month. Quickly, I exceeded it, but I didn't put pressure on it. I was still doing a year of master's. I got money from that for free. Who knows? So I was living on my own at that time, so I didn't have too much financial pressure, which was a real godsend for me because I got to focus on the mastering and the learning. I didn't have to put any pressure on the money aspect. Really, 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 really grateful for that. Because now we're going to go into okay, now money comes into play. I've been doing this for 2 years. What do I actually want? Do I want to, is this sustainable? I love it. I'm finding my way with it. I'm getting good at it. I'm getting referrals and, this is good. Like, I like this. So then I got really honest with myself. So now I'm 27 and my parents go on these really cool 6-month sabbaticals every 4 years or so. So that time I went to live in their house for the 6 months they were gone, and then another 6-month overlap with them. So this was kind of after my master's, second year of doing my healing business, and I would take the 51 from west end of NDG all the way to Métro-Laurier. And it was a nice trek. I'd have my tea, I'd read, I'd listen to podcasts. Back then already I was into podcasts. So I was like, okay, but what do I really want now? And year 1, I hadn't made a lot of money from it, but it was great. Year 2, I actually got really serious about, I think about marketing. And then year 3, I was like, all right. The marketing story, by the way, was really about that, finding the words. And it was brilliant. And it was finding, who do I really want to serve? Who am I called to serve? And I was able to double my income in year 2. And then year 3, it was like, okay, can I actually sustain myself, make a living for myself of this? Because I want to. And I want to live in a nice apartment. I want to live somewhere I like. And I want to have my clients come to my house. So I took a really big risk at that time. I rented an apartment I really liked. So if you've come to Freedom, you know the one. And it was, what was it? $1,100 a month for me alone to pay. And it was really nice because my little room to the left was really separate from the rest of the house. Because remember, I was really concerned because I didn't feel like I could have my separation between work and personal life. So I really needed it physically separated. And so I did, and I took a big risk. And that was a bigger financial commitment for me to meet every month, plus, of course, utilities and food. And at 27, you have a little bit more expectations of what you can afford than at 23, 24, 25. And I had a moment. Where I really thought I really screwed it all up. Because, of course, moving your business, some clients won't follow you. And you don't know if new ones are going to show up. And I'd done a lot of one-off sessions, and I had some packages. I did, but I never really tried to sell them. And I kind of got to a moment where I was like, okay, well, I think I'm going to have to get a side job. And I was really seriously considering that. And these are my rock bottom moments. They're so tiny. And I love that about my story, because you don't have to be homeless before you get the, come on, wake up. This isn't up to your standards. But yeah, I was like, okay, I think I might have to go do a side job of some kind to really make enough. And that was the moment where I found some marketing thing about making a launch and writing emails and selling a program. And holy shit, it worked. It worked. It was amazing. And I got the best clients that are here to this day. Really, that was the most amazing thing to me. I was like, I called in these 4 people. 4 people signed up to the 5-week program at that time. And seriously, they were the best. Chantal, you were one of them. There's two more people that like are really, really, I'm still in touch with today. One that disappeared into who knows where, but that was amazing to me. And what was also amazing to me is that not only did the launch work, but I had so many clients. And then all of a sudden, I had 17 clients in 1 week. It exploded. And then the whole new level. New level, new devil. I like that expression, showed up. Because I had the physical capacity, I had the mental capacity to serve those 17 people in 1 week. I really did. But then I didn't have the capacity for anything else in my life. And I would take naps in between clients, and I would do like the minimum self-care for me to be really able to show up at the level I needed to show up at that time. But I started kind of getting in the, oh shit, I can do this. And I can make money doing this. And before this, I'd already started looking at my relationship with money and really started doing a lot of work to clear it. Because before then, and this is where like relationships are a portal to healing and business is a portal to healing. Clearing my beliefs around money and receiving money for the work that I did got really murky. There's like beliefs where like, oh, if I'm receiving money, if you're giving me money, I better work hard for that money. And there's something that's not super clear energetically in that exchange, but because really what you want is the clients to be activated enough to do their own work with your guidance. And that's why I loved that program, because I had charged enough. Somehow at that moment, it's just like the magical amount, and I was just at the exact right place, because I was charging more than I was comfortable with at that time, that I was able to attract the kind of clients that were doing their own work. And it was actually easier to charge more. It was super weird. And it really started like undoing those beliefs of like, you have to work hard to get your money. Started. But I started seeing a glimpse of like, interesting. So then, I like expanded my money container and my capacity for these things, and also starting to get a little bit burnt out by the work. And I started seeing that there was something energetically a little bit murky that I was doing underneath the surface that wasn't right. Of course, I knew that my self-care slipping at that time was a definite indicator that something wasn't right. Because from my head, I really knew self-care first. But was I able to live it? Not yet. No. And then I had a time where I was really in that cycle of like, gotta get more clients, until there's a point where I didn't enjoy the work anymore. I got really tired, really, really fatigued. And I realized, okay, I guess I have to raise my rates. And that was terrifying. Every time I've done it, I procrastinated for months and months and months and months and months at a time. And I do it super incrementally, and I give people a long time. But I did. And every time I would raise my rates, I would raise my ability to contain a healing space, because that's really what my work is. I set the stage for the healing to occur. And I connect with sort of your higher self to direct the healing. I am guiding, I am directing. But the strength of your healing higher self and you is actually doing the work. And as I'd raise my rates, I'd get clients that were ready to pay more for that stronger container. And this is super counterintuitive. And what is included in this container that I was learning to start seeing is really watching people's self-judgment, and having very, very clear boundaries around how long you let somebody stew in something, in what way you let them. Like, there's a level of mastery and guidance that was really developing as I was also developing these stronger containers. And these stronger containers were mirrored by charging more for my work. And as I charged more for it, and as the containers got stronger, and as I created more space for myself, for my own self-care, the healing started getting deeper, longer lasting, more life altering. Not that they didn't before that, like they were already really powerful, but there was a shift. There was a shift there. And I really had to shift paradigms completely for money for hard work. I'm stepping now into more of money for mastery. And this was happening at the same time. So I was developing some mastery in my work, and I finally got to do the master training that my teacher was offering. And this was the first time in 15, 17, 18 years that she'd been teaching that she'd offer a group Reiki master training. And this was another huge healing time for me. So the way it was set up, it was 3 times 3 weeks of sessions. And so like once a week. So 9 total sessions. Doesn't sound like a lot, but holy moly was it activating. So I learned to do the attunements, all the energetic things. I'm very quick. I think I've developed this in other lifetimes that I'm just remembering, and boop, it's there. But holding a group, that was next level for me. Because again, what I had to learn, and again, if you look at my book 1, this is something I had unlearned. But what I had to learn when you form a group is you form fierce boundaries, fierce containers, so that within the group, healing can happen. And my teacher is a master at this, truly. And so she yeah, she taught that really, really beautifully. And she got us to check our ego. And this was activating for me because there was still an ego story running a little bit around. No, not a little bit, a lot. This is where it really showed up. If I'm going to call myself a Reiki master, shouldn't I be a Reiki master? I chilled out a little bit because I just substituted master for teacher, and I still do that. But it was activating because I didn't feel good enough. I did not feel masterful enough. And so what did I do? Remember in childhood when I would feel insecure like that, I would try to find the strongest person and just like follow them around or become them or copy them. So I knew cognitively that when I would teach my first Reiki class, it would be my first Reiki class. It would not be Ramya teaching through me Reiki to people. It was actually going to have to come through this channel. And before this time with one-on-ones, I'm good at effacing myself, right? Really good at evading attention. I get my clients to close their eyes. Like they don't like it's just my voice. So now I was in a situation where I actually have eyes on me waiting for me to lead them. And I tried to do it like Ramya. I tried to be Ramya. Ramya is nothing like me. I am nothing like Ramya. We are not the same essence. We're not the same sliver. And that still comes to get me because I remember first break of the first day of teaching Reiki 1, and I had taken the whole day off before. I'd went to yoga, I had meditated all day, like self-care was on point, and it was going really well. And I went to the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and I welled up in tears. And I was so disappointed that I was not Ramya. It makes no sense, right? But it makes all the sense in the world. Because I wasn't yet healed enough, and this was healing for me. I was doing things that were out of my comfort zone because they would heal me to help me step into the teacher that I am today. But that moment, holy fuck. I am me. And I am teaching this my way. Fuck. What did I get myself into? And it wasn't for lack of experience, because at this point, I think I'd done a good 600 Reiki sessions. Like, I knew my stuff. But this channel of me-ness was new. So teaching forced me to individuate and to hold newer, fiercer boundaries. And I do that in quite a gentle way. My essence is quite gentle. But there is a do not fuck with this sacred containerness that is also required. And I developed that by doing it. So after the first day of teaching Reiki, at that time I did it a full Saturday, a Saturday off, and then another Saturday. And I slept for 2 full days. It activated so much of my stuff that I could really do nothing but sleep. And it made me aware, okay, we've got some more work to do. And I think the teachers that got me here aren't going to get me to the next level. So this is when I invested, and this was a lot of money for me, in a healing program with Lindsay Landry. So some of you who are going to listen to this later will know. And so who is Lindsay? Okay, Lindsay is a wonderful, powerful healer from Louisiana. I think she says y'all and everything. And the way she introduces herself a lot is that she has Scorpio 5 times in her chart. And I have gravitated towards Scorpio energy in my teachers. There's something around how they go straight into the depths that has been extremely healing for me, because I like to play the facade. I like to play the good student. I like to play it. So Scorpio energy for me, super, super healing. So if you feel like there's a pattern of the healers you choose to work with, it's interesting to look at. I'm a Virgo. So if you've got Virgo healers everywhere, it's something to look at. So it was a little tiny group program. There was 4 people in it. And I fully gave myself to it. It was more money than I ever spent on anything like that. And in that program, she taught us about different energy types, different soul types. And I'll give you the super quick synopsis here. There's 5 types, and this was the beginning of a huge unraveling for me, because now I had a new vocabulary around boundaries and why they're so important in healing, and why I keep coming back to that lesson again and again and again and again. You hear it today, right? It's a major theme. And I used to get really sick of it. I used to really like, fuck, boundaries. It's such a ugh topic. That's how I used to feel about it. I'm shifting that a lot, because boundaries are like magic. They make everything magic for, anyways, the energy type that I am. The 5, these are like soul types. So the idea is that we each come into this world with a sort of soul type that we're going to play out. And this soul type gets activated with a sort of core wound in childhood. And these can be major and these can be minor. I don't know what mine is. What I do know is that the energy soul type that activated, it has a name, and it's called the shape shifter. And it's really a way my energy moves in the world. So let me describe it for you. The shapeshifter has these very open energetic boundaries by nature. And they have these like incredible antennas that can go plug in anywhere. So you can really use that like very intuitive, very psychic. You can go like put your little energy fingers like anywhere. Like you can plug into like a project, you can plug into the collective energy. And it's like this really like oceany, swimming magic. So at its best, what that energy is genius at is plugging into like where you want to go, and then like following the energy in ways that make no sense to get where you want to go. Where I wanted to go, more or less, was to be an expert in a field that was interesting, innovative, and would change the world. So I've been telling you the story and all these like weird little moments where, aha, I'm going to do this weird thing. That was my shapeshifter moving through the world. Shapeshifter is also like really like the energy isn't clearly contained, right? So with one person you'll be one way, with another person you'll be another way. I think a little bit of like Gemini energy, maybe, like where there's lots of like different facets and you would never really know what you're gonna get. And I was really confronted when I first learned about that, because I worked with different like types. I mentioned the Enneagram. The chakras are an interesting way to look at a human being. I'm an INFJ and the Myers-Briggs. That was very illuminating. But I didn't like this one. I really didn't like it. I recognized myself. I sure did. And I recognize that flow aspect I'm really good at. But at its worst, the shapeshifter has no boundaries, so it just kind of feels everything and everybody. And so it really gets so overwhelmed. It can get so overwhelmed. And like what she would call blown open. It took me a while to understand what this is, but what this is really an incapacity to plug into yourself anymore. And really like all of the antennas are sort of outward. And you're receiving so much input because there's a lot of antennas and a lot of information that you're able to like run through, that your like fuse is blown out and you can't really function anymore. So that started the clue in, when I had those 17 clients and I had to like sleep every moment in between, or when I was a kid and I get so overwhelmed at school because all of this pain was flying all over the place, this is something my energy does. It depersonalized it a little bit. And then it became like an interesting new layer of understanding of how energy works. And I started really playing with, there's this one visualization I lead many people through, is imagining all these antennas, and they're very loving and they give a lot of love outside. What if you turn half of them towards yourself? And every time I just imagine that, I get this rush of gentle, loving energy. And if that's what I give out, you guys are so lucky. But I'm even luckier because I have access to me all the time. And I learned to that was a moment. Oh, I can actually plug in to me as a power source. That was revolutionary. Truly, plugging into me. It feels actually really, really nice, really, really gentle, really magical. And of course, my journey to self-love had begun by then, but it was another layer to learn to love me and this channel, because for maybe one of the first times, I started understanding that there was a me. Sounds so stupid to say, but before that, self-love was yeah, I meditate and I have good spiritual hygiene, and that I was pretty decent at. But okay, turn a loving attention toward it wasn't totally clicking yet. But with the shapeshifter story, it started really actually clicking. So in case you're curious, the 4 other ones, there's the Great Mother. That is my secondary type. The Great Mother has more of a pattern of the core wound. The shapeshifter, the core wound is I don't know who I am or where I am. The Great Mother is I'm not enough. That's the core wound. And a lot of people have that one. And how it shows up is I'm not enough, so I better just blast everybody with all the good stuff, let me make meals for them and do their homework for them, and you blast energy out in the hopes that somebody else will return some to you. But actually, because you're blasting so much out, there's no room for you to receive. So as a Great Mother energy type, your great task is to learn to receive. So I've got both. So these are 2 lifelong patterns that I've learned to unravel. And it seems kind of counterintuitive, right? You've got the boundaries and you're supposed to learn to receive. How does that work? And then you learn to really trust the gorgeous intelligence and containerness of the boundaries. That's you. Okay, yeah, it's so powerful to recognize that. So the Great Mother needs to really learn to not give out so much and really play on how I'm going to plug back in, I'm going to receive. I think you might also be a warrior. You might check me on that. I'm going to describe that one next. The warrior energy has, opposite to the shapeshifter, amazing, amazing boundaries. But so much, so it's more like the boundary, at the unconscious level, at its worst, it's a no, cross, no. And everything in life is at its worst, is a fucking fight. It has to be gloves off, anger, I'm gonna fight you. That's kind of at its worst. At its best, the warrior is kind of wounded from the sense of separateness, right? And so at its best, the warrior energy is devoted to the divine. Devoted, such strong channels for the divine. And I see that in crystal. I do crystal. Maybe you are sovereign in what resonates, but I see that there's like unfuckwithable devotion to being of service to the divine on this plane. Then there's the mystic. The mystic's kind of core difficulty is being on earth. Its energy is just like, I don't belong here. Okay, like I'm of the fairies and of the angels, and this reality makes no sense to me. I don't get it. So think a very ungrounded energy, very high up. And so the mystic at its worst can't get it together here. Like, no, like money is impossible. Like navigating space is impossible. Like relationship doesn't make any sense to them. At their best, they're so connected and so mystically attuned. So when the mystic learns real embodiment and grounding, they're the ones that can really bring up like the information, the channeling from the divine into our world. And at their best, like make creations that anchor the divine here. It's amazing. And then the final one is the hero or the heroine. And that one also has really, really good boundaries. But that one is really concerned with what is appropriate and what is okay for me to express, and what how can they all like me? And so it's like it has really good boundaries, but it's really attuned to the outside world and the understanding of how social stuff happens. And I know that the Great Mother is in my shadow, but the heroine, like I described, my childhood is also a little bit there. So at its worst, they'll drive themselves crazy trying to fit in and trying to do the right thing, and they will work at a job they hate because it's the thing you should do and you're supposed to do. And they're really good. And at their best, they need to really plug into themselves as well in a different way than the shapeshifter. They need to really start looking at like, what do they value? And once they know that, and once they go for it, they've got the strength and the capacity to like really make a lot of magic happen. So that framework, including Lindsay's teacher, Jody England. And if you're interested in this kind of thing, I would turn you on to her podcast. It's called A Wild Soul Radio Tribe. There's no new episodes, but there's about 100 there. If this kind of talk is like making you sit on the edge of your seat and be like, I need to know more, that would be your source. And she teaches in a way that I'm playing with. Like, she offers herself completely to be seen as she is. And she is a great mother warrior. So that gave me the framework to start really taking things to the next level. Really looking at my boundaries, and that meant a lot of work in my relationship with Sean. No more putting it on him. No more blaming him. But that took me a long time to wake up to. Longer than I want to admit. And I was doing a lot of that. I was blaming him for anything that I didn't like in my life. It was his fault for some reason. No, I was refusing to take responsibility for it. I was refusing to be unconditional with myself and with what I was creating in the world. So around this time, I was learning all of this, and I was like, okay, cool. So now I've moved. now I want to create the next piece of my ideal life. So that is when I went to Thailand for 2 months, the first time. And that again was a big risk, but you take big risks and at some point they start scaring you less. But I was like, maybe I killed my business. Maybe it's done. Maybe it's completely finished. So at that time, I started also taking action for making online classes, because traveling, and let me place this in a bigger context for you. Traveling is really important for me. It always has been. Yes. You can get a bit of an idea why in book 2. But I'm 28 turning 30. And at this time I'm getting really into astrology. And before I got into astrology, I thought it was really hokey and stupid that why would you give your power away to a horoscope? Like, how could a horoscope know anything? And if you believed in it, fine, but whatever. And then I took a class with Ramya on astrology. Oh, excuse me, I got something in my eye. And I started seeing the whole complexity of it. And oh my God, I loved it. Oh, it was so cool. So I love to know people's signs, and oh my God, it really hurts. I'm gonna look crazy from now on. Cool, I think I got it. So I was really confronted again, and this was like another system to look at myself. So if you're starting to get a theme here, systems to look at myself have been both very confronting and very revealing. So that's also a little bit why I have such a holistic view of a human being, and why I have this very good instinct of which questions to ask, because I have a few different lenses and filters here that I can look through. So if you're telling me you're always creating fights everywhere, well, I know they're maybe kind of in the warrior mode, and then I know which questions to ask real quick, to get you to unleash the shifting or the pattern. But astrology was a really cool one, because I am a Virgo, and I never liked being a Virgo, because the Virgo is known to be perfectionistic and detail oriented. And that, yes, my mind is like that. I used to have a very strong inner critic. I really don't anymore. And I can see nuance that others can't. So I've got a very powerful brain, but I really didn't like the fixing, because I was trained really in from a Scorpio and a lot of planets in Pisces. That's Ramya, and she's mysterious, and there's never any mention of fixing. Everything's perfect already. And so I was kind of like, oh, I don't like this fixing part of me. But it really serves a lot, because I can really take somebody from point A to point B. There's no fixing because you're not broken, but I got that like strategic thinking that comes from the Virgo. But my ascendant is Pisces. I don't know why, but it boggled me, because until that point, believe this or not, and this is such an absurd thing to say, because I was already 3-4 years into doing what I do professionally. Until that point, I hadn't really owned my spirituality at all. And Pisces is, again, that shapeshiftery energy that like, let me dissolve myself into the ocean of all that is. And Pisces is like knowing that you are the drop in the ocean and you're also the ocean. And it's not very differentiated as an energy. And it took me a while to be able to see that of myself, that side of myself. And when I finally could see that in myself, a lot of healing took place. So for me, a lot of my healing journey has been like learning to see myself, how I move through the world. It's all been about understanding, really, who and what this vehicle is. How does it work? I used to always want a manual, and I wanted to write a manual for being a human being. It's a little complex, but that is kind of what I'm really, really, really good at with many of my clients is helping them understand themselves, helping them see themselves. And I really believe that that's a huge component of healing generally. That was a segue to explain that there's this thing called Saturn return. So your planets are in different signs when you're born, and then they like move in the way they move, and then they return to the sign. So your birthday is really your sun return. So it returns to the same place it was however many years ago when you were born. Now, Saturn is often described as the stern school teacher that says, okay, you got one round free. You got to play out all your unconscious karma, all your unconscious stuff. Now it's time to get conscious, yo. And that's how Saturn is described as an energy. And so when it comes back around into the sign that you were born with, these are the lessons that these are some values that are coded into you that you're really here to learn and master. And what is Sagittarius about? Sagittarius is about travel, truth with a capital fucking T, and many other things, but also teaching. So shit got real for me because I could have kind of floated around, like kept doing just my one-on-one healing work, maybe kept teaching a little bit. But no, Saturn, I gave it my power. I gave it my intention. I don't know that if I didn't do that, if I wasn't aware of that, things would have played out in the same way. But I accepted it. I submitted to the container of the healing available in a Saturn return. So if you are between the ages of 28 and 30, chances are you're in your Saturn return. And again, at around 58 to 60. That's the next one. So, I went to Thailand. I gave my first online course of chakra journey. It's still available. It's really cool because at that time, I could feel that I was starting to transition into a new version of me as a healer. And I knew that I had to like put down my passion for the chakras. It has really dimmed down a lot since then. But if you have been in that course, it's probably palpable how passionate I am about this. And that goes back to the last video, right? Like I had tremendous healing through learning the chakras. And I had tremendous, again, like this helps me to zone in and ask the exact right question for my students and my clients, because I have lived and breathed the chakra knowledge for such a long time. So I went to Thailand, I started this online course, and I started teaching like in the Healing Revolution group started at that time, the empaths. I was calling it the empaths with big dreams at that time. And what did that force me to do? It forced a whole new level of learning. Again, it's the same theme again and again and again and again and again. And you will have your own theme that you become a master at, truly. So when I ran the chakra journey for the first time, I had 20 signups. This is like unheard of. People running an online course for the first time don't get that many. It was awesome. And you were all awesome, those of you who joined in 2017. And what I had to learn is that I wasn't actually energetically holding every person in that class through this journey. Because unconsciously, that's what I was still operating under, that kind of, I'm going to hold you, you precious sweet thing, I will take care of you, and if you don't like the material that I teach, I will do whatever I need to do so that I can make you understand. So it was like a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility, and not a lot of faith in my students to be able to hold themselves and to be able to learn themselves and figure themselves out if they're confronted. I had to learn that. I had to start to kind of divesting my own personal energy from the teachings and the learnings. And I had to learn to trust that the teachings and the learnings were powerful enough without all of my energy wrapped up around them. And that's a lesson I just keep learning. Right? So now with the frameworks I told you about, this starts making a little bit more sense, right? My great mother wants to come and take care of everything and wants to do everything for you, and just please get some results. And the shapeshifter is like, I'm going to plug into you and I'm going to feel everything you're feeling so I can really guide you. If I am actually coded to teach to many, which I believe that I am, this cannot work. It cannot work. So I need to pull my energy back. So if you've looked at the curriculum for the Energy Healing Toolkit, you might not know this, but all of these pieces of what I'm telling you are in there. There's a reason I teach this course. Pulling your energy back, boundaries, deep listening in a way that you don't jump into the other person's space, learning to activate your intuition. Remember how terrified I was of my intuition? Learning that energy is everything, and we can sort of shift things on using visualization, and that's all in there. The parts healing. That was huge for me. So it's really like my healing journey synthesized. And I've now learned to also separate myself from this material. It's taught in my way. It's taught from the channel that I am. But once you have it, these tools can be recombined in any which way to make any which learning available to you. And that is in part why I adore energy healing, because you can approach anything under the sun with it. Anything under the sun. And what my Virgo is brilliant at doing is actually taking all those pieces, analyzing it to death, and in a good way. Death is good here, because now we've got all the little elements and they're all sort of chopped in this range. And then the creative, like once you understand all these little elements, the creative part of you can be like, okay, I need this one, and I need this one, and I need this one. Perfect. And it's clean and clear and precise. And it's like, once you have those tools, your energy healing gets to be a little bit more like a surgery without side effects. You can just like, so okay, that was that was an aside. Yeah, I learned to disinvest my personal energy from my teaching. And what happens when I do that? I get my personal energy back. I get my personal energy back. Woo! Getting my personal energy back really means another level of permission to be me. Another level of trusting that who I am, what I am coded for, is what is needed. Not because I'm putting all my personal energy into things, actually because I'm separating them out. Actually because I'm on my journey of a student and healer, and that kind of feeds in a loop because every client I have really teaches me, triggers me sometimes, and teaches me something. And that is part of who I am. That is who I've always been. That is who I will always likely be. And I get to have that. And if I choose, I get to teach from there. And I get to make these little creations that I throw into the world and sprinkle a little magic dust over. And you get to take and you get to learn. But that came because my energy here. My precision is at your service when you enter the containers where that is at your service. Not otherwise. My holding space for you is at your service. That is definitely one of my superpowers. It is at my service when the containers require it, not other times. I take it back. Because I need it. Because you need it. Because I need it to get to my next level of genius always. And teach the next level, and the next level, and the next level. And that's how I now see it working. So, where am I at with boundaries right now? Boundaries are, I don't fully believe this yet. This is my work right now, and I think I will invest what I must invest so that I can really know this to be truth in the deepest core. Boundaries are container holders, and they are sacred, and they are fucking magical. They are not only about saying no or upholding respect. Actually, boundaries, and the way I'm starting to feel into them, starting to see them, are these like wonderful prehensile energetic material that really facilitates me being fully individuated, fully me, and respect you being fully individually you, and navigates that interaction with total grace and truth with a capital T. My Sagittarius and Saturn there, right? Truth with a capital T is super important to me. I believe in personal truths with a small t. I believe in a quadrillion, all the different ways we can see things. And I've got about 800 little cameras in this third eye of mine. I'm learning to use them more with more discernment because now they're like all open all the time and it's intense. Yeah. I got distracted by the hearts. Thank you for the hearts. I totally got distracted by it. Right. So truth with a capital T, because truth with a capital T is actually what sets us free. There are a million little baby truths, and they're all true. They really are. But the real truth, the truth of the light, the truth of the divine, that is me, the divine that is you, the channel of the divine that is you, the channel of the divine that is me, it requires our individuation, and it requires those boundaries. And as it requires all of that containment, what can actually happen is bigger energy can land in. Bigger energy like what? Bigger energy like bigger money, bigger freedom, bigger choices, bigger love, bigger clients, bigger amounts of people doing my courses. That bigger land. I'm developing a new dream now. But your container, what you can hold, what you can receive in life gets bigger. And that is what is valuable to me. So what can be valuable to me gets to land into my container. But your container, as you get it stronger and as you get freed by the truth with a capital T, the truth of what you are coded for, the truth of what you value, the truth of your actual vision, the truth of what you want to create in this world, and that is important, okay? I'll get back to that. Gets to be landing, lets to come into this world because your container is strong. So that's where I am right now at learning about these boundaries. They are so not rejecting of other people. It has nothing to do with that, actually. They are really for you to stay in the zone of you and what you are creating. Because ultimately, am I there yet? Let me just check with myself. Ultimately, what I want to claim today is I have had the courage to create. And I'm so proud of that. And it was hard. There was so much shadow, so much confusion, so much error on the way to creating the life that I have created, manifested, if you will, but really it's about creation. I think I'm Xing the word manifestation from now on. It's about creation. And we're at a juncture, friends. We really are. The world has ended. That's a very dramatic way of putting it. I did. And now that I know also what I did, there's more to come. I am so not done. I'm calling myself a baby magician. A baby magician. And I've been talking about this little new container that is like a 10-day experience called Soft Magic, because the boundaries of this new magic, these container boundaries, for me feel soft. And that is a hell of a new paradigm that we can move into. And I believe we're asked to move into a new paradigm. Once in a while I'm asked, what do I think of this pandemic, COVID-19? If you're watching this years from now, it is May 8th, 2020. We are, these are field notes from the dark. The pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen. But what I believe, and I'm willing to state, is we are totally at a crossroads. And we need to take our power back from all the institutions we've built. I don't mean we have to dismantle them. I don't believe any of that. But I mean, maybe some countries, probably need some dismantling. I think where we live in Canada, I'm incredibly grateful. We must get clear on what we want to create from here. What is actually of value? What is actually important to us? Because we've known for years. And I know that if you're watching this or you're in this group, you've known this for years. The way we are going is not sustainable. And you are on this planet and you are coded with what you value. And I'm not interested in you keeping the play small and not creating what you value on this planet, no matter how small it is, no matter how seemingly insignificant it is not your job to judge what you value. If you value it, it's because has chosen you as a channel to come into this world. So if you value tiny, intricate, I don't know, little jewelry pieces, I don't know, something tiny and delicate, then you must create something tiny and delicate, and you will make our world better for it. If you, like I was as a little child, called to just change the world, then that is what you must put your energy behind. And I am no longer interested in coddling anybody who's not interested in stepping up to their thank you, Crystal, that is fucking amazing. I'm not interested in coddling your sense of being non-powerful. Total and utter bullcrap. The idea that you are not powerful just doesn't make any sense to me, okay? I have clients I have some of the most beautiful and amazing clients. And I really want to work with you to take you to your next level of creatrix. There's one client who comes to mind. I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her. She's really busy these days. She's a nurse, and she chose to get into nursing a bit later in life. It's their second career, and it's a true calling for her. She values caring. She values those little moments of care, those little moments of kindness, those little tiny those tiny moments. And she might not be able to see it from her vantage point because she's in it every day. I can see how that value being expressed in the way she was called to express it through the nursing probably impacts hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lives. Do not underestimate the power. Okay, so I'm going back to Carla from day one, woman who is my first boyfriend's stepmom, who came to invade my basement apartment, but told me, hey, your depression, no, no, go get help. Those moments matter. So that is what I offer myself in service to, in the way that I am built, where I can help you understand who you are. I can help you take ownership of who you are, create those soft but magnetic and delicious boundaries around you. I can give you the tools and most importantly, the understanding of how you operate. Actually, that's a lie. I can't give you that. I can activate that. I can sit in the muck with you and activate that understanding without taking any of it on. And that is the work that I am called to do in the world. And at this very, very moment, there's the energy healing toolkit that's available. Chantal, I cannot wait for Monday morning. I think we're going to really do some magic. The price for that is going way up on Monday. The story I told you here is a story of me hiding behind modalities, hiding behind a lot of things. There's a true value to keep things accessible. But my genius is no longer for cheap. So the prices are going way up on Monday. If you feel called to slip in right before that happens, I will be so happy. Just message me. It is totally not about the money, and it's totally about the money. As you can hear in this long story. What? It's 10 p.m. Holy shit. I can't believe it. It's like that. As you can hear in this long, long tale, that took 4 hours to tell. Money is about money, and it's so not about money. It's really about me owning who I am in this world and playing the game I am here to play. And if you're here to play with me, we're going to play a big game. And it's going to be, in the words of me when I died, fucking majestic. It's going to be fucking majestic. Okay. Stay tuned. I am very happy my intuition nudged me to do this. And I am so grateful for my 2 total warriors who have been here this whole live stream. You are astonishingly amazing, and you held a phenomenal space for me to tell this. In the energy, there's two-wayness to this. And also a total claiming, honoring of this channel. So much love to you. There will be no live stream like this tomorrow. And we are all going to see what my intuition indicates is next. Doesn't give me a lot of advance warning. If the 10-day experience starts now, it doesn't. I don't get that sense. So we will be on standby. In the meantime, the prices goes up for Energy Healing Toolkit. It's a very good program. It's an excellent program. I recommend it to anybody who wants to do energy healing. And that is really it. So I am going to hit finish now and okay. Thank you. Huge, huge thank you.